Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. As usual, we're so happy that you guys are here. And as you guys know, we take a lot of time and pride in what we do. And the time it takes us to jump on here, create topics, come to you guys with different ideas and different things to discuss about the boiler room and the plumbing world, but mostly in the boiler room, since that's where we spend a majority of our time. We are appreciative of you guys. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, man. It really helps us. As you can see, we're growing. I think the last time I came on here, we were sub 600. Now we're getting closer to 650, and it's greatly appreciated. While you're at it, man, smash that like button. Help that algorithm. It's greatly appreciated. On this episode, man, I wanted to talk to you guys about basically if the boiler room could talk to me, what exactly is it saying? And for those of you guys that are in the industrial field, and let's be honest for a second, even if you're in the residential space, because I was there for a while myself, there are some times you go down to a basement and before you even get to the boiler room, you have kind of an idea of what you're walking into. And I don't mean to judge a book by its cover, as they say, but in some regards we kind of have to do that, or at least in our experiences as technicians, you automatically do it because that's just what the business is. So it was a funny story many years ago. I remember, I'm 16 years going on 17 years in the business. And I remember when I first came in, my stepfather, who you've heard me talk about because he had a very, very large and strong impression on me when I came into the business and how the business operates. Now, obviously, as time has evolved, our ideas and our thoughts and some other things have kind of been skewed a little bit, and I have my own perspectives now that I've been running my own company for going on 7 years. But with all that being said, I always remember this phrase that he said to me, and in so many ways, even to this day, he couldn't have been more right, which was a clean boiler room is usually a well-operating boiler room, and the equipment itself is well-operating. And there are actual mechanical things behind that, but in some way, shape, or form, it's almost like the equivalent to a human being, you know what I mean? Sometimes you see people that keep really good hygiene and things like that. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but some people have better hygiene than others. Some people look presentable in public. Some people wear pajamas to the restaurant. I was never that type of guy. I always was taught to kind of carry myself, with my head held high and, operate at a little bit higher caliber than, again, I'm not on anybody, but I do feel like the way you present yourself is kind of how you're going to be perceived out in the real world. Now, some people don't care, and I'm not talking about how I care about what people think about me, but I also like to give a good first impression, and a boiler room is truly no different. When you walk in and you have clean painted floors and the boiler is well maintained and the boiler room is well maintained and there isn't dirt and mud and crud and old parts and things laying all over the place, typically that equipment is working at a very higher rate without complication, as opposed to the job that we walk into where there's dirt and everywhere, the lighting is terrible. In some cases you have one little light bulb sitting above the boiler. And again, for some of you guys that are residential space, or if you're in the industrial space, it really matters only from this perspective of how big the equipment is. But the truth is, everybody in here should understand exactly what I'm talking about. Because when you walk into a boiler room, whether it be a big boiler room, a small boiler room, whether you be working on an industrial sized boiler or a residential boiler, you always have that one little light bulb hanging over the equipment, and you can barely see what you're doing. But with that being said, it also just leads itself into how the equipment and how the boiler rooms are taken care of. And usually I can get a good idea about the upkeep of the equipment on what type of situation I'm walking into if the first thing I see is dirt and garbage. And the same thing can be said for these basements. So I'm in New York City. You guys have heard me say this many times. If you may be watching this from different countries and different states, and I know every state's a little bit different, but we're talking about New York City. So, to me, New York City's like lipstick on a pig. I've gotten to see the bowels of New York City for so many years that the exterior to me is the lipstick, right? To people who don't live in the city, It looks beautiful. They have these great, and it really does. It has unbelievably breathtaking, landscaping and the buildings are old school and old architecture and just beautiful parks. And at face value, it's a beautiful place to go. But when you go down into the bowels, you understand how dirty and cruddy it is. So when I walk into a basement for the first time and I see boxes and I see garbage and I see piles of just garbage bags been there full for God knows how many years, empty paint buckets everywhere, old used oil all over the place already before I even step foot into that boiler room. And even though there is that one-off chance that I step inside the boiler room after walking through all that, everything looks great. 99% of the time, I step foot into this boiler room and everything is the oil's leaking on the floor, the boiler's leaking, the boiler's in rough shape, the rope gaskets are hanging from the doors, there's dirt and mud on the floors, there's one light hanging over the equipment, barely lights up the equipment, just top to bottom, right? The piping is corroded, it's got nipples leaking inside the boiler. I mean, I could just go on and on and on and on and on, and it's almost like it's a deterrent in a lot of ways. Now, I take those clients on because at the end of the day, I try not to judge my clients based on the boiler rooms, because there are a lot of companies out there that are not fantastic. Now, I'm not knocking. There are a lot of good companies out there, and I don't really look at guys as my competition. That's not the type of person I am. I have guys that I'm probably in direct competition with, but I don't look at things like that. I try to work with everybody, but there are also a lot of companies out there that don't go above and beyond, that don't even let the clients know. Sometimes the managers I deal with haven't even been to that boiler room, and they might not even know that it looks that way. You know what I'm saying? So I do take things with a grain of salt. And I'm still the type of guy that's willing to go in and see, but I'm also the type of person that's going to go in and write up a list. So that first day that I get that call, I go in that boiler room, I'm very thorough. So it's like, first thing on the list is lighting. So it's another funny story that I can tell you guys about my stepfather too, is when I came in the business, I was in my 20s, and now I'm in my 40s. So when I was in my 20s, we would go to boiler rooms, there wouldn't be a lot of lighting, but I would have my flashlight, and I'd say, man, it's fine, but he used to hammer home lights. I mean, by the time he was done with a boiler room, you could sunbathe inside of it. That's how much lighting he would put in there. And I remember thinking to myself how crazy it was, and I kind of used to make fun of him a little bit, but not much. And now that I'm getting to my 40s and I'm the type of guy pulling my cell phone out and turning the light on to look at the menu, I understand how important lighting is now. And I kind of he passed away, unfortunately, 2 years ago. And it's just one of those things I wish I could call him and kind of have that laugh with him now after so many years of kind of not understanding really how important that was. But anyway, I digress. So I'm first thing on my list is lighting. Then I'm just writing everything top to bottom. I'm not going to continue to service a building if the person that's on the other side, whether it be management or an owner or whatever, is not willing to put in at least the bare minimum to keep up with the boiler equipment. Because, not to mention everything else, there's so much liability in this business, right? There's so many things that go in behind the scenes. There are so many things that can go wrong inside of a boiler room. So it's wrong of me to go in, A, and not be thorough and tell my customer what's wrong, right? B, leaving a job a certain way that I feel is not within my, what I feel is the right way to leave a job. So there have been many jobs I've gotten for the first time that I went into the boiler rooms, I leave the equipment off. And I write in my paperwork that I left the equipment off because I can't handle the liability of what could happen. Now, granted, 99% of the time something doesn't happen, but in that 1% time that something does happen, I don't want to be on the receiving end of it. So we're very conscious of being smart and doing things in a very safe way. Now, obviously, there are some situations where the boiler room is and the equipment is kind of but as long as the safeties and everything are working and there's nothing that's imminent specifically about the equipment, we'll leave it running. But we still test the low water cutoffs. I still test the pressure controls. I still test everything, make sure things are working before we leave. And if I find something that's not working, they either need to change that part immediately or I leave the equipment off. You have to be very mindful of liability. You have to be very mindful of protecting your ass. That's the world we live in now. Everybody's looking to sue. Everybody's looking to come after you. And you don't want to be on the receiving end of that. But anyway, with this, You can judge a book by its cover most of the time. And I have learned through the years and repetition after repetition after repetition of doing the thing that I understand that some of these rooms are not up to par, and it's my job to either bring them up to par, and if the person on the other end is not willing to put in the effort to bring the boiler room up to par, that's not a customer for me. Everybody's at different levels. When I first started, I would take on any client. That's how you start business. You want to, you can't be picky, right? Because you got to start getting the ball rolling. But now, after many years and getting my foothold and creating relationships with different people, not that I anybody's job, I'm always open-minded to go look. But once I get to a certain point and both parties are not, I think happiness is the wrong word, but like if you're not seeing eye to eye, or like I have a vision and they have a vision and those two visions don't align, it's fine. We shake hands and we keep it moving. I don't burn bridges. That's not what this is about. But I've also learned to be very forthright with the client, because I think it's really important to be transparent. Transparency is something that is unfortunately slowly dying in our industry. So I try to do things the right way. So with that being said, man, that's just another episode that I want to wrap up. You guys know I don't go long-winded on these things, but these are all topics that are very interesting to me, and they're things I think about. And I think that some things are obviously purposely relative to the boiler room itself, but I think this topic, although I am talking about boiler rooms, I feel like this aligns with pretty much anybody in any situation. So when you go to somebody's house and their house is a mess, you can kind of make an assumption about the person you're dealing with. It's the same thing, right? So like any place of business that I go to, if it's super tidy and super clean and they really care about the upkeep, that's the type of company I want to do business with. If I go to a place and it's kind of like stuff's all over the place and there's no real order and it's sort of chaotic, I probably don't want to align with those people. So I hope all this made sense. Again, sometimes they're ranting, but I do find these things to be very important for you. If you're walking into a boiler room for the first time, or even in a house for the first time, houses are a little bit different. How you operate, how you deal with homeowners as opposed to like landlords and managers. But still, you should know what your limitations are, and you should understand what your avatar looks like before you even walk in the room. So I hope you guys got something from this, man. Once again, I really do appreciate you guys. I try to make these short. I know attention spans are not that vast these days, and I think it's more fun when they're a little shorter. You might be sitting in your car, maybe you're at the gym watching this, but it is greatly appreciated. I will forever be grateful to even have this platform to speak to you guys on, and it really means a lot to me that so many of you have come and subscribed to the channel. And if it's you watching and you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, man. Why the hell not? All you can do is go in and unsubscribe if you really don't like what I have to say, but otherwise support our channel, right? And while you're at it, if you haven't already, smash the like button. Help us out, man. We do our best to help you guys out. Like I've told you on many other episodes, drop a comment below if you have a topic or something you'd like to hear us discuss. We will gladly bring that to you. That's what it's all about to me. I really want to provide as much to you guys, as much as it's fun for me to come on here and talk about my experiences and things that I've dealt with. I always talk off the cuff and off my chest and off my brain. I don't really go above and beyond much of that. But I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you keep crushing it, keep killing it in your business. I hope you have a great day. Peace.